Hi, welcome back to What's Workin'. I'm Nicole Wurken with my brother Ross Kenneth Wurken, and each week we're highlighting young entrepreneurs and thinkers who are changing the world today. And today we have Rob Biederman, who's the co-founder of HourlyNerd with us.
So Rob, explain to us what HourlyNerd is and what exactly its comparative advantage is.
Great, so thanks for having me on. HourlyNerd is a company that is changing the way that we think small businesses are acquiring and utilizing talent, particularly on the extreme high end. So what we currently have established is a supplier base of 700 MBAs from the top 20 programs, and they're doing hourly tasks for businesses that probably have between 2 million and 100 million in revenue, and they tend to be finance, consulting, investment banking type tasks.
Now, Rob, we actually both have worked at Goldman. You've highlighted that oftentimes a larger company will reach out to a Goldman Sachs or whatnot for advice. Why would your company be of interest for a smaller name, for example?
Sure. So what we think we are able to offer is sort of the Goldman, McKinsey, Bain & Company level of quality, because it's the analysts and the associates who do a lot of the underlying work anyway,
right,
at a price that's about 1/100th of what you might pay. So the top consulting firms are a couple $100,000 a week in certain cases. Our MBAs who've just finished there and are now in business school work for $35 to $70 an hour.
Right, and we know that the analysts are the ones staying at work till 3 a.m. anyway. So just to jump on that though, you're in the middle of business school, you're at HBS, you have another year ahead. Talk to us about, this was actually generated from one of your classes. Have you noticed that Harvard Business School is trying to promote more entrepreneurship? Are there people like-minded like you that are starting these kinds of companies?
Oh, absolutely. So these days, you know, it's a complete turnaround from what you saw in 2006, 2007, where investment banking or private equity were the really cool things to do. These days, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur or do a startup or work in social enterprise. And so we didn't have that explicitly in mind when we started this, but we think there's a lot of interesting optionality in being part of something like this.
So ultimately you're saying finance has become unhip, uncool, and it's really about being an entrepreneur in this space.
Well, I think people like going to work in t-shirts, so.
Yeah. Maybe Harvard is the new Stanford. They have to compete a little bit.
It certainly is helping, I think, HBS recruit against Stanford when a student gets into both.
So what trends are you seeing in terms of the pickups from your clients? Are the startups that are seeking your nerds actually picking the cheapest one every time, or does experience factor in?
So that's what's really fascinating about it. So we have this supplier base that's currently 700 MBAs, and we expect to grow to several thousand. And one of those students always has the right expertise for a project that gets posted. And so, for instance, we had a project last week posted by an Australian telecom operator. We saw one bid of $1,400 from an HBS student with traditional consulting and private equity background, and then somebody from Darden at the University of Virginia post bid on the same task for $2,500, but who had exactly the right expertise at a big telco, and it was actually the Darden student who won. So we think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating. We were talking before, it's interesting from the business school perspective, these students actually are looking to gain experience. How do you filter the candidates that are actually providing the services, and what value does that add them? And then how do you make money?
Great, so we do the filtering in 3 main ways. So first, you have to have a .edu address for one of the top 20 business schools for now in order to participate. And then, so businesses will pay us up front when they've agreed upon a consultant. And then the student will only receive the money when they've completed the task in a way that's satisfactory to the business. The last way is that when you complete a task, the business will provide you with feedback, which then in the future when you're bidding, businesses will see alongside your resume and your pitch. For the student, it's a great experience. So first, they make money, and business school costs a lot of money. I think the total cost of attending Harvard this year is $91,000,
wow,
including everything. Secondly, it's a great way to try out a new industry. So let's say you were a consultant or you worked in banking before school and you want to move into private equity or something like that. It's a great way to try out a task. It's also a great way to build up your resume. So if you're going into an interview in an industry you've never worked in, you can say, but I did this task, you know, on the side. There's this business owner who's willing to give me a recommendation.
Last question, are you finding that when you're searching for VC money, which is obviously the next step in this venture, you're cold calling, you're using your networks? What is the actual strategy?
So we're doing it in several ways, but doing a lot of cold calling. We are using the Princeton network, the HBS alumni network, and it's a company that at this stage we're only looking to raise $500,000 to $750,000 just to fund a technological upgrade. It's a story that's great for angel investors and also early stage seed funds. For later on VCs and a lot of the famous names you've heard, we met with them, they love the idea, but it's a little too early to invest in a concept this small. And so if they have a or $500 million fund, investing this little capital isn't really the right profile for them.
Got it. Well, thanks so much to Rob Biederman. Being a nerd is actually the new cool. So check out HourlyNerd. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about this company. Rob Biederman, thanks so much. I'm Nicole Erkin with Ross Kenneth Erkin. This is What's Workin'.